Nachi, I'm going to hand over to you. We're looking forward to your presentation on the importance of sub-regional identities and fleet management in APAC.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Yves, for the warm welcome, introduction, and feel humbled today to share my views to this gathering. Let me quickly share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Okay. Yeah, it's loading, Nachi. There you go. You're good to go.
Perfect. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all my fellow attendees on this Global Fleet Summit APAC 2021. I would personally like to thank the organizers for putting up this together for APAC and giving us the platform to connect. I guess that was lacking in our space in APAC. So let's dive in today to today's topic, identifying the importance of sub-regional identities in APAC. So in the next 15 minutes or so, this is the flow of the session. I'm happy to take questions post the session, and feel free to send in your comments in the Q&A. Brief about what Syngenta is. We are a strong 48,000 employee people across the world, supporting the agriculture business and the food system challenges which we have at hand. So we group of crop protection, seeds, Adama, China, Syngenta Group China, and that forms a Syngenta Group. This is our global fleet snapshot, with EMEA leading the chart of 3,933 vehicles, followed by APAC. And this is the APAC breakdown country-wise. And you will see right from SUVs to pickup vans to trucks to sedans and two-wheelers. Diverse, right? So the fundamental question, what makes APAC so different than other regions? And I've tried to categorize them into 6 categories, and I'll try to back these up with my personal experiences, learnings, so that you know that this is something coming experience firsthand and not just some corporate guy sitting out of his fancy office telling what should a fleet look like in APAC. Here we go. Cultural differences, language, written and spoken both, time zones, law of the land, market maturity, what type of vehicle is needed in that terrain? 4x4 is an example. To give you an example, we were trying to auction a retired fleet in a particular country, and we had to place an ad in the local publication. And guess what? The regional manager was challenged because it was in the local language. We had to go back to the country manager for help. And let me remind you, we were then in the operating model of the regional model. And I've seen a transition from country model to region and back to country now. And I will not shy away from saying we have learned a lot from other regions which are mature than us. And we have adapted ourselves locally now. And hence my mantra, think global and act local. Corporations may argue that they have better controls when it's a regional model. But I think it is up to us. How do we use that partnership with our global stakeholders and get the best out of the two worlds? Very important. Next one would be developing countries. We are a part of the developing country ecosystem. Access to technology comes at a cost, where your CFO is always looking at cost per vehicle per month. Fleet managers struggle in managing these operations on Excel-based trackers, and you will hear me say Excel sheets a lot today. Give me a shout out or a thumbs up, or if you're secretly smiling on what a nightmare it is to juggle between these sheets. It's a nightmare. Whereas our counterparts um, can access all of this at a click of a button. BS6 vehicles are now being introduced in some countries where it is the basic in a Western country or Western markets. Adaptive cruise controls, parking assist, lane change notifiers are still far from reality in our fleets. Is it an aspiration? Of course, yes. I still remember being on a global call where someone asked me, "Why don't you implement fuel cards in country X?" I simply smiled and politely said, "Plastic money is not accepted and we still deal with paper currency." We need to recognize these nuances and ensure we don't overcomplicate it for the end users. Lack of a single platform. ERM, CRM, e-sourcing, billing, managing fleet lifecycle, so on. Our systems won't talk to each other. Right from gathering information on what specs your particular model to compare to sourcing, fleet induction, maintenance, service history, billing, and in short, complete life cycle. How many of you are still maintaining different Excel sheets, online SharePoint copies of this data, multiple billing sheets when they come for approvals on emails? It's crazy. During the lockdown, thanks to COVID, some of the governments made a bold move and authorized e-invoices and made things easy for us, but we have still a long way to go. For a monthly dashboard, fleet managers spend their month ends putting a deck together. Imagine this being done by individual fleet managers for their respective countries. Laborious, right? Multiple preferred strategic partners, a big word, be it the leasing companies, the OEM car manufacturers. Trying to still have a single strategic partner like other regions will not work here now. I know I have countries or regions in the north where it is dominated by a particular partner and south by another, and both are equally strong. But can I go with a single source vendor or a strategic partner? No. A few years ago, someone struck a global deal with a partner X, and it was agreed that it needs to be rolled out in all the regions globally. But in APAC, when the decision met the reality, the partner did not have a presence in the tool of trade market. Enforcing single brand across all the region now is a big no-no. We are not mature yet. There are markets where you need to import vehicles and the lead time is anywhere between 3 months to 4 months minimum. And not to forget the higher import taxes and maintenance cost due to the import of spare parts too. This leads to my next couple of points, which is support network. The upkeep of vehicle is an important aspect where employees have to either sacrifice their personal or professional time when they get their vehicle serviced. And if you don't have a support network, God save them. They have to travel miles from the base locations, and in the bargain, the maintenance of these vehicles is going to be neglected. So look at your partners who are strong with their service networks, support system, after office hours coverage, emergency helpline networks, and so on. Sorry. APAC has a mix of leased and own fleet models, and some countries do not have a mature lease market. The financials should do the talking. Instead, you're trying to justify why leased model is doable in a particular country. I have live examples where we moved away from finance lease to self-owned fleet, and it is working well. So there is no right and wrong answer here, but it should work in your organization's favor and your P&L should support it. So let me shift gears and let's unravel What's the secret sauce to APAC? Listen to your stakeholders and end users. Very important. What is that they want as a tool of trade? Imagine someone gave you a tablet or an iPad instead of a laptop to do your daily job. Wouldn't it hamper your productivity? The feedback is key to tailor to your solutions. As a fleet manager, your role will be to ascertain a fit for purpose vehicle for employees. And guess what? While I was preparing for this presentation, I received a call from a very senior stakeholder stating for the next refresh of vehicles, he wants his entire fleet to be a 4x4 driven. I patiently heard him out, still trying to figure out and understand what made him to that conclusion that he needs a 4x4. While I still couldn't gather the rationale, I concluded the conversation saying, "We'll get back to you with a proposal, but keep in mind your employees need to undergo a training to handle these 4x4 beasts." His instant response was, "They are professional drivers with a couple of thousand kilometers of driving experience in their lifetime." I said that won't suffice to drive these vehicles, and they got to be ready to loosen their pockets for higher rentals. While we go back with to him with a robust proposal, industry benchmark, financial analysis, and help him take an informed decision. Again, listen to your customers, stakeholders, your end users. Very, very important. Next is health and safety. Again, a non negotiable aspect because you're dealing with employees' lives and lives on the streets. Your fleet selection should never be substandard and always try to up your safety game wherever possible. I remember we moved a fleet from just seat belts to mandatory airbags, ABS, ABD, and so on. Can we have more? Of course, yes. And the bar needs to be raised at every opportunity available. Employee training, defensive driving skills, circumstantial awareness, periodic risk assessments need to be carried out. Maintaining a training schedule and ensure drivers are trained in the first 60 days of joining is very important. When I used to sign the allotment letters of these vehicles, I used to randomly verify their licenses, and it used to amaze me that few employees had just been issued driving license. They were fresh out of the oven. Imagine such drivers on the road driving huge pickup trucks, vans, having no or very little experience handling such heavy vehicles. I can go on, but like I said, this is a non negotiable point to any fleet manager or any organization. I've seen quite a few tragic accidents, incidents, and it still saddens me till date. Next, scalable and sustainable operations. Your business may shrink and grow, but as a facility manager, you should be able to meet both the requirements. Scalability would mean different to a supply partner, end user, OEM manufacturer. So exploring your redeployments, early contract terminations, or integrating with mobility service providers along with public transportations to create short-term mobility solutions should be in your back pockets wherever possible. And I appreciate APAC is still budding. It needs to be sustainable too. Corporations are now pledging for carbon footprint reductions. Use of fuel efficient vehicles, BS6 and above, wherever markets allow. Smart routing features should be deployed. Tracking and generating meaningful fuel consumption reports and socializing it with your business heads to get some traction will be beneficial. Next, involve your business partners. And I'm not saying just internal, your external too. There are a lot of factors. Be it your health and safety, indirect procurement, HR, finance, your leasing companies, and your OEM partners. It's all about partnership and skin in the game. When all are involved, you can influence your decisions much quickly within your organization and externally as well. Right from policy, safety, budget, and to what is available in the market will help you efficiently manage your fleet. I spoke about technology and I did say it comes at a cost, but it also helps drive the right behavior. Driver safety is a classic example. We initially had Gen 2 GPSs systems installed where I used to get a raw dump of data at the end of the month. And by the time we scrubbed it and went back to our drivers for speeding, they would come back and say, wouldn't even remember where they did oversped, or they would just blame on the network, saying it was a false alarm. Then we moved to telematics, where it gives the driver instant feedback over in speeding, and automated reports are also being sent to him, his line manager, and business heads. Guess what? We are in phase 3 now. We're implementing advanced version of telematics, where it not only gives visual feedback for safe driving skills, but it also tracks unsafe driving events like harsh braking, harsh cornering, acceleration, overspeeding, and this is all real time. We can call it as lead indicators for safe driving habits. Smart reporting will enable fleet managers, HSC, line managers, business heads to take better informed decisions and also look at employee well-being. Last but not the least, TCO, the most insensitive topic, total cost of ownership, and many fail to recognize that it's just not lease cost multiplied by number of months of the lease run. Without naming which department, I once saw a proposal put up where the selection was based on lowest cost rentals, but when inquired, they had to have the least number of service network tie-ups, which meant poor customer experience. Total TCO would have gone for a toss. How about fuel economy? Is the most ignored parameter, right? And the total and the list goes on. But as a fleet manager, it is your interest to consider all the factors when you talk about TCO. It's just not cost. With this, I move on to the Q&A. I know I've overshot by a couple of minutes, but happy to take on more questions.
Thank you very much, Nachiket. Thank you for your presentation. I hope that you enjoyed giving your insights from Syngenta's point of view. We still have time for one or two questions. So the first question that I would like to ask you is, you are a global company having a global fleet. You have an important fleet in APAC. We have seen in Yves' presentation earlier on that he, let's say, identified sub-regions based on some similarities within those sub-regions. But you mentioned that the local alignment is key.
Yes.
How do you keep track? How do you stay aligned between global, regional, and local? What would be your main tip based on the best practice of Syngenta?
I would say collaboration. And the one thing which we need to avoid is working in silos. And as regional managers, it is our duty to be the conduit between the global and the country and the region. Because we need to be having that three-way conversation between the region, between the global and the country, and see we are aligned to our global vision and not work in silos.
Okay. A final question is, if you could do the APAC exercise again, what would you be doing differently?
Good question. I would first I would implement a platform where I could visually see the entire fleet at a click of a button.
Okay. Nachiket, we hope, of course, that you stay with us for the complete conference. Thank you once again for your presentation and your insights.